Let's take these 3 Disney movies and turn them into horror, and what I did to The Lion King at the end is beyond normal. But let's start with Beauty and the Beast. I'll bring in the background first, and once we have that, we're bringing in Beauty and the Beast themselves. Right now, the Beast is looking way too happy, so we're gonna fix that, because in this video, he's taking revenge for being cursed. I start by cutting out his arm, and don't worry, he's getting it back. I just need it in a slightly different position. Once I have it, I rotate it up so his claw lands right on the woman's throat. You can probably already see where this is going, but trust me, it's about to get a lot worse. I blur out the background to push more focus onto the characters, so let's get into what's actually happening to this woman. I create a shape that looks like an incision from the beast's claw, add some shadows into it, and then add fresh blood underneath, since this just happened. But I have an idea, and it's going to sound pretty gruesome, but I need the woman's head on its own separate layer. So I'll start by getting rid of her head and then bring it back and tilt it backwards. I thought I was simply going to be a graphic designer, but here I am tilting heads backwards. Anyways, next I'm on a mission to make things even worse, so I'll grab a flash texture and integrate that into the throat, and to sell it, we'll add some shadows and more blood. Then I'll add blood coming out of her mouth too, and remember when we tilted her head backwards? It left a gap, so I sample her skin tone and paint that back in, because it's kind of unfair to also put holes in her, she's already going through it. Anyways, then I'll shift the color around the throat towards more of a purplish pinkish tone for reasons I think we all understand by now. Then I'll add shading under the beast's finger as if the cut isn't enough already. I do the same on the cut itself so you can see poison right in the wound, and if you don't want to get poisoned, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you! Then I'll bring in a vein overlay texture, warp it to match the shape of a throat, and lower the opacity so it doesn't overpower everything. Now, the beast is still looking way too happy and generous, so that needs to change. I cut them out of a different image of him where he's actually angry. Then I grab the rest of that angry expression, his nose and eyes, and blend it into this image. After messing with it a bit, erasing some parts and blending it together, it actually reads as genuinely angry. Then I'll add blood spatters across both characters, then pull some of it back because it was too much and it was pulling focus from the actual scene. Looking at the woman, the blood is still too subtle, so I add more blood on the throat and more on the claw and the fingers since he's the one cutting her open. Her hair was looking a little off, so I paint some back in to complete it. Then I'll add some bloom onto both characters from the background light, so it feels like they're actually being lit by it. I also add saliva to the beast since he's so consumed by revenge that it's flying out of his mouth, even though he kind of looks like a dog with rabies now. After that, I'll bring in a new title, Beauty and Betrayal, since the beast is getting his revenge on her. Then a final camera raw filter, and I'm not quite done yet because her expression was reading like she understood him, almost sympathetic, so I change it to pure shock instead. Then a final hue and saturation to match her skin tone, and I guess today we ended the Beauty and the Beast franchise for good. We still have Aladdin and the Lion King coming up, but next up is Aladdin. In the original image, the smoke comes out of the lamp, but in ours, that smoke, the genie's tail, is wrapped around Aladdin's throat instead. There's something about throats in this video, but anyways. Once that is painted on, I get rid of the original smoke since it's not coming out of the lamp anymore. I select Aladdin and the lamp and move them onto their own layers, and if you're wondering why, grab a bucket, you're gonna need it. I start with giving him a new expression since he's looking way too happy right now, and there's really no reason for him to be laughing. I add a mouth that looks more like a scream along with new eyes, and I push a red color onto his neck and half of his face to make it look like he's actually choking. Then I'll paint in some eye veins, and this is where the separate layers matter because now I'll erase the legs from the original image, leaving Aladdin without them. Before all the choking, he had already been split into 2 pieces. Then I'll add blood onto his belly and a puddle underneath. Next, I'll warp it to follow the shape of the carpet he was sitting on. I select the monkey and give him his own blood too, blending it in so it feels natural. This poor monkey is traumatized for life. Once the monkey is covered, I bring in an image of severed legs and apply blood right away, and cut away the top edges since they were looking too smooth for what should be rough. Then I'll add an image of a pile of meat in front of the legs and under the torso since things are falling out of him now that he's been cut open. You understand now why I told you to grab a bucket? If not, don't worry, there's more coming. Anyways, I'll add blood onto that too, using blend if to bring some of the highlights back through for realism. Then I'll bring in an image of intestines and integrate them underneath him since those are still spilling out. Then I'll add some blood onto him plus shadow so they feel like they're actually hanging inside his body. Now that Aladdin's been dealt with, it's time for his punishment to come from somewhere, so let's work on the genie. First, I desaturate the background a bit more to make the characters pop. Then I select the shape of his mouth and draw in his own sharp teeth, since he is looking way too friendly for what he is about to become. I work on his eyebrows next to make him read more sinister, and honestly, it's already looking a lot better. Well, horrific. Then I'll integrate the decayed texture onto his body and brush away the parts that felt too much. Next, I add blood onto his face too, since beyond all the organs on the floor, he's actually enjoying them, like they're his meal. Again, bucket. I try adding wings to make him look more like a devil, but honestly, it didn't work, so I scrapped that. And instead, I make him red instead of blue, since blue reads as trustworthy and this guy is the last person you want to trust. Making him red turns everything else red too, so I fix his armbands, his eyes, and anything else that wasn't supposed to change. I add splatter onto the genie, then more splatter and blood across the floor, since there's just a lot happening in this scene. Then I'll add more blood dripping down from Aladdin onto the severed legs, and then a final camera raw filter, and that's Aladdin if the magic lamp contained a demonic genie. Now, before we jump into the last poster, I've put together a brush pack with some of the brushes I actually use to create these horror transformations. If you're into graphic design, or you just want to start making this kind of stuff yourself, this pack is for you. It's completely free, no catch, just scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description and it's yours. Alright, now for the last one, the Lion King. This is going to be horrific and satisfying at the same time. Let's get into it. The Lion King has always been the revenge I've been waiting to give, because I hated what Scar did to Mufasa my whole life, and now I get to avenge that loss. We start by bringing in the background based on the original scene where Mufasa dies because of Scar, kind of like poetic justice. I'll add a pin-like boulder into the middle of the scene and I place Scar right on top of it. Then I'll use puppet warp to position him so his middle is pushed up and his head and legs hang down, like he just fell straight onto it, which he did. Once he's in position, I erase parts of the top and the bottom of his body, since it needs to look like the boulder has actually gone straight through him. Then I'll pick a dark brown tone and add shadows onto the boulder. Then it's already time for the blood, which is really what sets the tone here, so I add it in and blend it with the boulder to bring in some highlights for realism. Next, I'll add blood onto Scar himself as well. Using generative fill, I expand an image of the 3 hyenas from the original movie, since they're getting their revenge in this one too. Then I'll integrate them into the scene, with one on the right looking completely psychotic, positioned right on the Scar as he hangs dead on the boulder, and another one placed on the other side. I add shadows on the floor from both the boulder and the hyenas, plus shadows on the hyenas themselves cast from Scar and the boulder. Now, these hyenas already look unhinged, so I add blood to them as they feast on Scar. Bon appetit, hyenas. Anyways, then I also drop the saturation on Scar, since he's looking a little too alive right now. After that, I add a blood puddle on the floor and then erase parts of it, since it was reading a bit unrealistic at first. I cut away a part of his foot to show one of the hyenas taking a bite out of it, and then add blood right onto the bite mark. I grab a piece of Scar's skin, place it on the floor, and cut the same bite shape out of it, so it visually matches what just was taken. What a surprise! I add blood to that piece too, and put it in the correct perspective so it sits properly on the floor, and finish it off with shadows underneath and a bit more blood. Back to the floor, I add more blood around the rocks scattered around, plus more blood coming off Scar on the boulder. Is it me, or is most of this adding blood? It's pretty obvious that this is personal. Anyways, the shading on the boulder was incorrect, so I go back and fix that. In the image I used for Scar, he was looking a little too relaxed for this situation, so I used the clone stamp tool to make sure he actually looks like he is, well, suffering. Once that is fixed, I add more shading onto the boulder and onto Scar himself. Then I'll also add blood coming from his mouth, his nose, and his eyes. And at this point it's almost complete, but it's still missing the logo, so instead of the original, I titled this one Mufasa's Revenge. Then a final camera raw filter, and that's the horror version of the Lion King if Mufasa actually survived. My favorite is the Lion King because it's probably how we all wish it ended. Anyways, let me know in the comments which one was your favorite, and if you like this video, you'll probably like this video too.